You know, when I started out this 12-week challenge, I had no idea that I would reach week 10. What is it that actually powered me to do this? So when I started out, it might have been either a thin line between being courageous and just being mad, really. But I think it was more courageous. Now, courage is usually kind of taken as being totally fearless, going into battle and being prepared for death. Well, that's not the kind of courage I'm talking about. I'm talking about courage being totally fearful, but yet going forward anyway. And that's what I was like when I started this 12-week challenge. I had no idea what was ahead of me. It was going into the unknown. I had a kind of a very rough outline of what I wanted to get over. But the actual tactics, the actual, everyday episodes are not planned. They're just me going through this 12-week challenge and trying to report to you what my experiences are, whether they're my internal experiences and my thoughts, my emotions, my physical sensations in my body, things that are uncomfortable, things that are holding me back, things that are getting in the way, or maybe things that are on the outside that are just kind of getting in the way, and seeing how I problem solve that. So that's the courage that it takes. You just have to sometimes step off. Now, some people call it, stepping out of your comfort zone. I just don't see it that way, because I don't believe that we're actually in a comfort zone. I think we're mostly in an uncomfort zone. It's just that we get used to that uncomfort zone. It's not that we become comfortable. But it's more of an adventurous zone, an unknown zone, a courageous zone, where you're willing to experience the really uncomfortable sensations and events that go on inside us when we're moving into that unknown, but yet you have values and that are strong enough and important enough for you to bear that. But it's not enough. Courage got me started, but it didn't keep me going. What kept me going was more like grit. Grit is a kind of a perseverance in the face of unknown, in the face of being uncomfortable. So courage got me started. Grit is that perseverance that every day I come and show up in this project, show up in my life to get things done that I think are important enough to get done, these tasks. That's the committed action part of how I'm trying to live and what I'm trying to teach. So we have our values, the things that are important to us, but it's not enough. We have to go out and actually do the tasks that serve those values. And that's the committed action. That's the grit of persevering, even when it's not easy. Even when my mind is telling me I don't want to do this today. Even when my mind is telling me you don't have time for this today. And all sorts of other messages that our mind throws up. And we just need to remember that not all of our thoughts are true. We don't have to abide by everything our mind tells us or throws out at us. And that's got me this far. And so when I look back and I think, oh my goodness, I think this is like the 50th episode. How did I do that? Well, I did it in small increments. Every day a little tiny bit. So when I can look back now and I think, wow, what have I accomplished in 10 weeks? Okay, so if this wasn't a podcast, then it could be little tiny increments of whatever I wanted to achieve. And I can look back after 50 increments and go, you know what? It is possible with a little bit of courage and a little bit of grit.
Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman has embarked on a 12-week daily live challenge to disseminate a mixture of knowledge, combining his hand-picked golden nuggets from his personal library together with his decades of experience and learning. He is doing this as a committed action to service his values of contributing and helping others, using himself as the subject of this exercise, despite his feelings of awkwardness, anxiousness and shame, which usually forms a barrier of uncomfortableness within, holding him back from accomplishing his goals. Dov Benyaacov-Kurtzman is an accomplished psychotherapist and clinical social worker with many years of learning and experience. And yet his self-disclosure of his vulnerability and openness is to demonstrate the human condition that we all experience from time to time. Disclaimer: the contents of this podcast, such as text, graphics, images and other material contained on the podcast, are for informational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.